Good morning, everybody. This is Man Coverage College Football Show with Knoxville, Nate, and James Bonneville. It is December 18, 2022. It is Sunday. College football season is in full bowl swing. James, how are you doing today, sir?
It's great. It's bowl season. I love it.
I'm a big fan. We've already had some pretty good, close ball games, and obviously we're working up to the college football playoff, which is just around the corner. The Final Four is set, as we have already discussed on the show. We're going to go a little bit more in depth today about the college football playoff, kind of give our thoughts, our predictions, what to expect. We've also got a guest lined up for today. We're going to talk a little bit of the transfer portal, a little bit of recruiting, some assistant coaches, everything college football. But we would be remiss if we didn't discuss, obviously, what happened early this week, and that was the passing of Coach Mike Leach. You can't really talk about college football over the last 10, 15, 20 years without bringing up Mike Leach. This guy was a character. This guy was a very intelligent fella who, also liked football and liked coaching football. And, I don't think, that college football will be the same without him. Obviously, he started back in the day at some smaller schools, worked his way up through Kentucky, and then got the head job at Texas Tech, and then, did some great things there with Michael Crabtree and company, and then went to Washington State and then finished up his career at Mississippi State. James, what will you remember most about Coach Leach, and what do you think of when you think of him and his legacy?
Well, I mean, he was the untypical coach where everyone would give the standard press conference line. He would start just going on this romantic trip dealing with history, because he was such a history buff, and he would say stuff constantly that was just so different than everybody else. I mean, heck, the guy is one of the forefathers of the air raid. I mean,
Yep.
People forget this guy didn't play college football. He was a student coach at BYU learning under Lavelle Edwards. I mean, and let's be honest, look at how much he developed the passing game and how many people he's influenced over his time. I mean, I don't think Lavelle Edwards gets near the credit he deserves from Mike Holmgren, Dennis Green, Andy Reid. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And he took that, and everybody thought that Mike Leach's concept was very complicated, where he would openly joke that there's 10 plays and they don't do stretching before practice. They have drills set up to warm people up, and it was all about setting up muscle memory to do certain things at a certain time, and that's why his system worked. I mean, the guy, he should go in the College Football Hall of Fame. He won't because of the 60% winning percentage. But the guy didn't make a bowl game, 2 or 3 times his entire career, and he invented an offense. Plus, he went to schools that weren't powerhouses. He went to middle tier Power 5 schools.
Yeah, he kind of put some of those schools, on the map. I mean, Texas Tech has had some decent, squads over the years, but he really made them a contender in the Big 12 and made them a force to deal with. And like I said, was ranked at times, in the top 5 when he had Michael Crabtree there, and they were slinging the ball around. And I just think my thoughts about him are, there'll never be anybody else like him. And that to me is what's special about him, is that there isn't anyone else like Coach Leach. I mean, that's just, that's the honest to God truth. There's nobody else like him out there. He's a one of a kind dude. And he was always interesting. I loved hearing him talk because you had no clue where it was going. I mean, you ask a question and, you may not get an answer that had anything to do with that question, but he was going to tell you something that was interesting, thoughtful, and, had meaning to it. And that's why I love this guy. And, once again, it's a perfect example of how, short our lives are. 1 minute we're here, the next minute we're not.
What's funny is a lot of coaches try to keep their secrets to themselves. Mike Leach told the world. Like, he didn't care. He was like spreading a gospel of the air raid and how he believed it was going to work. And I mean, 3 of the 4 past Super Bowl champions have used variations of what he created. I mean,
well, let's talk about his coaching tree for a minute. I mean,
oh yeah,
obviously one of the biggest examples is in our college football playoff that's about to go on right now. The coach at TCU.
Yeah.
I mean, he was he learned under Mike Leach, and I think a lot of what we're seeing, happening for the Horned Frogs, came from him, don't you?
Oh, 100%. I mean, you got Mike Leach, you've got Lincoln Riley, Cliff Kingsbury. I mean, the list goes on and on. And what's funny is seeing what people have done from his base concepts and how he's evolved, how they've evolved that into much bigger things. I mean, it's Art Briles to Phil Montgomery. I mean, Montgomery's going to be taking that thought process to Auburn. I mean, it's going to be Robert Anae up at Syracuse.
Dave Aranda.
Eric Morris, now at Texas State.
Yeah.
I mean, there are so many tentacles from his teachings that have really blown up and taken college football to a whole new level.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to start the show on a somber note, but I just, I love that guy, and
yeah.
I thought we'd be remiss if we didn't discuss it. So, R.I.P. to Coach Leach, and lots of thoughts and prayers go out to his family, and obviously the staff and all the players and all the recruits and everybody associated with Mississippi State, because they're going to have to carry on without him, and this guy was at practice on Sunday, getting ready for the bowl game, and then Monday night things went south. So sad news, but college football is continuing, and we've moved into the bowl season. One thing I want to hit on first is the game yesterday. I was kind of shocked when I first saw that Florida, who was 6-6, was matched up against Oregon State, who, was 9-3, but their 3 losses were by like 8 points. And, they lost to USC, they lost to Utah, and I'm losing the third team, but they, they had a really good season. And I lost to Washington, excuse me. And, every game they lost was very close. The Washington game was 24-21. The USC game was 17-14. I believe that was the lowest point total for USC all year long. They got shellacked by Utah, but Utah's a pretty good team. So I thought this was kind of a mismatch. And if you watch the game, I was right. Oregon State demolished Florida, and honestly, it looked like Florida had no business being on that field. 30-3 the final, and they just moved the ball all day long. What did you see out of this game, the Las Vegas Bowl with Florida and Oregon State?
I mean, what more do I have to say about Jonathan Smith? I mean,
wow.
Honest to God, I am shocked that he is not a higher name on coaching searches. Like, nobody talks about him.
Nobody does.
This guy is, offensive coordinator the year that Washington went to the playoff. Goes down to Oregon State, which their program was in shambles. Absolute in shambles. And quite frankly, if he wasn't an alumni there, would he have even gone? And look what he's done in that short period of time. Heck, you look at the second half of the Civil War. He owned Oregon. He didn't throw one pass. Everybody in the building knew he was going to run the ball, and look what he did. He won.
Yeah, it was a mismatch. I know that some of the Florida players opted out, but let's be honest. The Florida
mattered.
Yeah, they could have had 5 other dudes out there that were, all conference players, and it wouldn't have mattered. This game was so one-sided. And why would you opt out of this bowl game if you're on the Florida team? It's not like anybody looked so good all year that they deserved it. And one thing that I just want to hit on real quick, Anthony Richardson, their quarterback from Florida, is entering the NFL draft My question would be why? What on earth? Who's giving this kid advice? And do you think this guy will even get drafted?
I do, but I think he's going to have to go to a certain system. I think he has a lot of work to do.
Have you
I
seen him
mean,
throw the football?
I agree, but do you know a perfect place for him to go to and a perfect person for him to learn under would be Lamar Jackson in Baltimore.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
I
see it. I don't
I mean,
see he's not this. He doesn't have the running ability that Jackson has. I mean, he's a good
no,
runner, but he
yeah,
can't run like Lamar.
no,
And I mean, I guess he could potentially work in that system, but they've already got Huntley,
yeah,
and
I
they
know.
also have Anthony Brown from Oregon, who I think is a great fit there. I'm not sure they need another quarterback. I mean, Matt, we'll see what happens if they don't re-sign Lamar, and maybe he goes elsewhere. But I don't know, man. I watched this kid play. I've seen pretty much every game that Florida's played this year. I've watched every game that Kentucky's played, and Will Levis and Anthony Richardson are two guys that I certainly would not have high on my draft board. I mean, they have some ability, they have some talent, but if I need a quarterback to play quick, I mean, let's be honest, how much time do you get in the NFL these days? Not much to develop anybody.
No.
So,
I mean, they're metric guys. I mean, you look at Levis and Richardson, they're metric guys. They're big, they got a big arm. The problem is that's like using guys like Troy Williamson. Just because he's really fast doesn't mean he's a good receiver. I mean, you still got to catch the ball.
yeah.
And I've seen countless. I mean, heck, Dan McGuire, Mark McGuire's kid brother, was a high first round draft choice by Seattle. Does anybody remember Dan McGuire? No.
I remember him because he was like the tallest quarterback ever. He was like 6'8", but he was horrible in the pros.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I don't understand it. I think honestly, Richardson would be served best by going back to school.
I agree.
And, playing another year. And Levis, I think it's time for him to move on. But I just, I got more questions than answers with him. A couple of these bowl games we'll hit on real quick, and then we'll get into some coaches, some coaching moves in the assistant world. Obviously, BYU played SMU in the New Mexico Bowl, stopped the 2-point conversion to win. This BYU team kind of had a really up and down season. At times they were in the top 11, top 10 almost, and finished the season 8-5. Just kind of a weird year for BYU. I think this win was kind of big for them to finish out strong, because they had that stretch where they lost 4 in a row to Notre Dame, Arkansas, Liberty, and East Carolina. East Carolina being the most surprising. What did you make of this year for BYU football?
They were up and down completely, like you said. I mean, the hard part about this bowl game is when I first saw it and I saw their over-under, I thought this was going to be a shootout because, I mean, SMU and BYU can put up points. The problem is with all the opt-outs, this game went the absolute opposite direction. And, I mean, heck, you look at BYU's numbers. I mean, they were trying to keep the ball on the ground and try to run the clock as much as possible and try to keep the ball out of the air. So, it was a much different game than I was hoping for. I love those up and down games. But yeah, BYU they weren't what they typically are. And it was hard watching that game last night.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I think we're going to get a lot of that in this bowl season. You're not really sure what you're going to get because of the opt-outs and the changes to the teams, and some players playing, some players not. It's going to be kind of weird like that. Fresno State took care of business with Washington State. Nobody really talked Fresno State this year, but they finished 10-4. That's a pretty good record, 10 wins out there. Their only losses were to Oregon State, USC, and then they lost to Boise State and then lost to UConn, which was crazy. But that just goes to show the job that our boy Coach
Bedford.
And coach at UConn's doing up there. God, why am I forgetting his name?
Mora.
Yeah, thank you, Jim Mora Jr. But yeah, Fresno State, 10 wins, pretty solid. They won their last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They won their last 8 games.
Yeah.
So that's finishing on a good stretch. And I don't know why no one's talking about them. They were first in the Mountain West and looked like a pretty good squad. But we'll see what happens with them next year. They do have bunch of guys coming back. But I want to get your thoughts on this Louisville Cincinnati game. Kind of a weird setup
Yeah.
with Cincinnati's coach exiting, Luke Fickell going to Wisconsin, and then also Coach Satterfield leaving Louisville, and Coach Braum coming in. It was kind of weird, and Louisville ended up kicking that ass. You think the coaching moves had anything to do with this game?
I do, quite frankly.
I do too.
I mean, the one thing also people forget is this is an old-time rivalry game. I mean, after the game, they weren't running for the bowl trophy. Louisville's players were running for the keg of nails.
Yeah.
And people forget about some of these old-time rivalries that went away. And because Louisville and Cincinnati used to play each other on a fairly regular basis. But, if you would have asked me before the game, like when bowl season was first announced, before the coaching moves started happening, I thought Cincinnati was going to win this game.
Yeah, I did
and
too.
Honestly, you look at down the line, I mean, after the coaching moves happened, Cincinnati players sounded depressed on social media, and Louisville players were excited. Scott Satterfield was gone. Like, that was motivation for them. And I mean, look what happens. They go out 24-7. It really wasn't much of a game. And Malik Cunningham, nowhere to be found. I mean, they won without Malik Cunningham, which tells you if Malik Cunningham was playing, this could have been a very ugly game.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. A couple other games. Honestly, Troy, how do you quietly win 12 games? I don't know. I guess maybe because of the conference that they play in. The schedule wasn't the toughest, but they did play Ole Miss at the beginning of the season. But winning 12 games is winning 12 games. And they beat Coastal Carolina 45-26. And then obviously, won this bowl game against a good UTSA team. What do you think about Troy and the direction that program's going? I mean, they were already ranked 24th, and then they win this bowl game in the Duluth Trading Cure Bowl. What do you think about Troy right now as a program?
John Summerall is a name that should be on everybody's lips right now. I mean, quite frankly, you look at that game against Old Piss. That was a tight game in Old Miss. I mean, it's 28 to 10.
Yeah,
that was a tight game overall, and people don't really understand how good a defense that Troy has. What John Summerall is building there. It's very untraditional, and you look back at the App State game, it was a Hail Mary. They got tipped in the receiver grabs it, runs into the end zone. Otherwise, this team's 13-1, and we're probably talking them somewhere in the 15 range.
Right.
And I mean, I think John Summerall is the new Jamie Chadwell. I think he's going to be talked about for a lot of jobs next year, after next season, if he comes out and does exactly what he did this year.
Yeah, no, I mean, let's be honest. The Sun Belt Conference has gotten a lot better.
It's really good. I mean, honestly, I would take the Sun Belt any day of the week over CUSA in a heartbeat. I mean, especially that Sun Belt East was just devastating.
Yeah, James Madison, Coastal, Marshall, who beat Notre Dame. You had Georgia Southern. You had App State that beat A&M. You had some teams that really put up big wins this year against Power 5 programs. And
Georgia Southern beat Nebraska.
Right. Yeah, no doubt. And Georgia State, beat Tennessee a couple years ago. So sorry for bringing that up, guys. But that's a huge conference upswing, in my opinion. And, Southern Miss is in the West, and they had a big bowl game, too, with old Frank Gore Jr. Going for 329 yards and throwing a couple passes as well. So pretty cool to see that. But I want to get into in the next few minutes here the assistant coaches that we need to discuss. I want to start off with one from your list that you devised, Bobby Petrino. This guy was a big hot commodity just a few years ago, when he was at Arkansas, Louisville. Before that, he had some great Louisville teams, and then went to Arkansas and was winning at a pretty good clip. And then the motorcycle accident occurred, and he had his little honey on the back of the motorcycle. But, he's worked his way back, and I got to respect that for the guy. I really do. I mean, he's worked his way from the bottom back up to the top, and now he just got the job at UNLV. What did you think about Bobby Petrino going there? And what do you think he can do out there? for the
Well,
Brothers.
honestly, when I heard his name being mentioned, I kept thinking he was going to go to become the offensive coordinator at Texas A&M, which made me believe that at the end of the day, probably Jimbo didn't want to give up the reins completely.
Yeah.
And when Barry Odom got hired out at UNLV, I sat there and questioned it a little bit because, his job at Missouri wasn't the greatest. Grant, phenomenal defensive coordinator. I really thought they were gonna get Patterson from TCU,
Yeah.
but first move out of the gates, Barry Odom brings in Bobby Petrino.
I think that's a good
Man,
move for him,
that's
don't you?
that's that's a phenomenal move. I mean, especially with all the specialty talent out west, and you put a mind like Bobby Petrino to run that kind of offense in the Mountain West. I mean, that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I agree. What were some other assistant coaches that were hired here in the last couple of weeks that kind of caught your eye?
One that just happened the other day was Rocky Long going to Syracuse to take over the DC job. The Syracuse DC moved on to go to Nebraska, but I mean, Rocky Long is an old timer who has a lot of, I mean, former head coach of both San Diego State and New Mexico. DC at UCLA, Oregon State, San Diego State. This is a guy who's a very good defensive coach, and I'm a really big fan of this hire. He's a hard-nosed guy who has his linebackers come down hard. Another name, Phil Longo at Wisconsin, is a really intriguing name. I just don't think they've got the personnel quite yet to run that kind of offense that he wants to run. Wisconsin's always been so running heavy and running back heavy. And now they're doing a complete 180 and they're going to be very pass heavy. It's not a true air raid per se, but they like to go vertical. And they got a transfer yesterday, Nick Evers, a freshman from Oklahoma, is transferring up to Wisconsin, who's a 4-star out of Flower Mound, who probably will take over the starting job at quarterback. I just don't know who they're going to have at receiver besides probably DK and Marcus Allen, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I liked the job he did. For people who don't know who Phil Longo is, this is the guy who, presided over the offense at North Carolina the last few years, which has been racking up yards and points at will. And then was the OC and the quarterbacks coach at Ole Miss before that. So the guy's, produced at his last couple stops. There's no doubt.
Well, not only that, you go back to Sam Houston State where they won Division I AA national championships with Willie Fritz, and then prior to that, he was the OC at UMD with Bob Nielsen when they won national championships there in Division II level. I mean, he's come up the hard way from being a head coach in New Jersey all the way to getting the Wisconsin job. Now, I think the transition Wisconsin is going to be a little more difficult, but I mean, you look at what he's done; it's a phenomenal line of work going to this point.
Yeah, and began his coaching career at Parsippany Hills High School. I just wanted to say that.
It kind of just rolls off the tongue.
God, I love saying Parsippany.
Sean Lewis at Colorado. I gotta say, when Dion made Coach Prime got the hire in Boulder, and his first move out of the gates was bringing in Sean Lewis from Kent State. That's gonna have a lot of people excited to play that offense. I mean, it's gonna be easy to recruit your speed kids to come to Boulder to play that kind of offense.
Yeah, I mean, when's the last time you remember a head coach resigning his post and taking a coordinator job at another school? I mean, that doesn't happen too often, does it?
I think the last time I would see it would probably be Enos when he left at Central Michigan to go to Arkansas as the OC. I think that would be the last one I can remember. I mean, I think it's going to happen more and more because you're starting to see coordinators making more money than G5 head coaches. Yeah. And they think that's going to be their jump to becoming a head coach somewhere else.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Any other assistant moves you want to hit on real quick here?
I'm intrigued by Ron Roberts at Auburn. The Ron Roberts is the former DC at Baylor, moving over to Auburn, and not only that, Phil Montgomery. I think Hugh Freeze's first two moves out of the gates is he's trying to create excitement within the season ticket holders and the recruiting aspect. I think that's a real smart move coming out of the gates for Hugh Freeze.
Yeah, and speaking of recruiting, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention old Dylan Raiola
Yeah,
decommitting from Ohio State. Did that shock you when you heard that news? And do you think that this kid could be headed to Nebraska?
I
Following the hiring of Matt Rule.
I think that is definitely what was going to happen since his uncle's the offensive line coach. People may not remember this, but his dad is Dominic Raiola, who was a master blaster center at Nebraska during their heyday during the 90s. I mean, Dominic Raiola really was probably one of the best centers you'll ever see in the college football game. And when I heard that move, as soon as that happened, it does not shock me, and it wouldn't be a bit surprising that they get a commitment from him in the near future.
Yeah, I mean, we got a long way off,
Yeah,
obviously, from 2024. I mean, we're a little bit more focused on 2023 right now and what's going down, but obviously, that's a big news story today, as he decommitted from Coach Day, and there's been some criticism of the Buckeyes recruiting in the past few weeks. I'm not real sure why. They're still got a top 5 class this year, and still already Brian Hartline signed another 5-star wide receiver who's the number 1 wide receiver in the country, or didn't sign him, but got him to commit for next season in 2024 coming in, and has 4 of the top wide receivers coming in next year. So I don't think this is the end of the Buckeyes. Do you?
no, I don't. And quite frankly, I would be kind of shocked if Coach Day doesn't promote Hartline to a co-OC role, just based on his line of work to try to keep him there as much as possible. I truly expected. I thought his name was going to be much more involved in that Cincinnati job.
Yeah. Well, he was mentioned, but
Yeah,
with Kevin Wilson moving on to Tulsa,
yeah.
taking the head coaching job there, that position is vacant. It'll be interesting to see whether Day promotes from within, brings somebody else in. That'll be interesting to watch. But we're going to go ahead and bring on our guest right now, as he's in the green room. We're going to pop him on right now and see if he can hear us.
How y'all doing?
Hey, can you hear us,
Hey.
Aaron?
Yes, sir. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we sure can. Thank you so much for joining us today, man. We just wanted to bring you on. We're talking a little college football today, and we wanted to get you on the show, and we really appreciate you taking the time. Obviously, we're talking to Aaron Dykes, running back, kick returner from Richmond. You guys finished up your season 9-4,
Yes,
had a real good year, and you obviously excelled. Just talk to us a little bit about what this year was like for you, and what your feelings are like once the season wrapped up.
First, I appreciate you having me on here. For this year, this year was a year for us that we wanted to finally get over the hump and get into the playoffs. In my 5 years, we never made it playoffs, and I think we achieved that. Early in the year, we stumbled at Elon in a game we think we should have won, but we needed that, I think, and because we rolled 5 straight off of that. After that, we rolled 5 wins off of that. And then we lost a tough one at home to William & Mary for losing the Capital Cup and the CAA championship all at the same time. But ultimately we achieved one of our biggest goals in making the playoffs. And it was great. We got a good draw with Davis in the first game, and then went to Sacramento and had a chance to win a game that we should have won. And the weather definitely played a big role in that game, knowing that we like to throw the ball a lot. But it was a successful season. I think we built something special there, and the program's moving in the right direction for sure.
What was your recruiting process like when you were going to Richmond, and what were you looking for through that process?
The recruiting process was definitely difficult for me. I actually committed to Furman before my senior season in high school. So I was committed to Furman my whole senior football season. And after the season, I kind of stepped back and evaluated what I wanted, and I decommitted. And then Richmond came along right after I decommitted and offered me. Went on an official visit early. I went in December for an official visit, or November, one of the two. And it was just after that, it's kind of hard. Recruiting is difficult, especially at high school, because everyone tells you what you want to hear, and it's hard to pick when you're weighing pros and cons of certain universities. At the end of the day, I was looking at ETSU, Holy Cross, and Richmond, and Holy Cross and Richmond were similar academically, so that was like kind of a draw. Both of them were better than ETSU academically, but then my dad and a couple of my high school coaches played at ETSU. So then that like factored in. It was just hard. And then at the end of the day, my dad told me I just got to do what it is I want to do. And that sometimes making a comfortable decision wasn't the correct one, which would have been ETSU for sure. And I think I just felt the most at home with Richmond, and I just kind of took a leap of faith, and I mean it paid off.
Yeah, no doubt. And for the people that don't know, Aaron played high school ball here in Knoxville, where I live now, and I got to see this kid at Hardin Valley, and he was a dog. That's why I always remembered watching you, man. That's why I wanted to have you on the show because I kind of followed your career after watching you play a couple of times. I especially remember that game against Farragut.
Yes, that was,
you took that shit over, and it was awesome, man. I've always remembered that and wanted to get you back. But digging back into the recruiting, man, you talked for a minute there about figuring out what's best for you. And that's the thing I got to imagine is the hardest because everybody, now you come in, you put the uniform on, they take your photo, they take you to the stadium, they try and show you a good time, and everybody wants to make their program, fluff it up a little bit. But how do you see past the curtain and kind of get into, getting your questions answered and figuring out what is best for you? How do you find that out?
I mean, it's hard. You definitely got to ask the hard questions. I mean, you got to find out about situations in your position. I mean, something like you got to find out what kind of situation you're walking into. Are you walking into a situation where they need you as a numbers guy in the position room, or like, are you a guy that they can walk in and play, or a guy they want to develop and get you ready to play in the future? I mean, it's definitely difficult. I mean, because when you go on campuses, you see all the nice stuff, the uniforms, they lay everything out nice for you. I mean, they show you a good time, take you out to eat, and everybody's just, it's nice. I mean, it's way different. I mean, when you get into camp freshman year, I mean, coaches aren't smiling as much anymore. I mean, the biggest thing with me is when you get the chance to talk to players without the coaches around is asking them the hard questions as well. Like, even though they do try to get guys to host official visits that are bigger in the program and had a good time, I'd say, I mean, you still got to ask them, how are the coaches? Like, because they'll most times be straight up with you. Like, how are the coaches here? Are they good to the players? Is they just telling me a bunch of BS and things like that? I mean, that was the biggest thing for me, is trying to find out about the coaches through players. And then you just got to try to figure out which coaches are just saying stuff to recruit you and which coaches mean it. Basically, it's definitely difficult as a high schooler.
No doubt. And this was a long ass time ago, but when I was looking at colleges to play football at, the big thing to me was I wanted to go there. I wanted to visit. I wanted to, meet the coaches in person, in person, face to face. And I wanted to check out the campus for myself. But definitely the coaches, was a big thing. And I just want to get your thoughts on, what were the biggest things to you that drew you to Richmond? Was it coaches? Was it the team? Was it the program, the culture? Because, that was a big thing to me when I was on campus at Ohio Wesleyan, where I ended up playing. I knew I was home once I got there. I loved the guys that were already on the team, the recruits that I met, when I was on my visit. I enjoyed, and that's kind of what swayed me. Was I liked the coaches, I liked the campus, I liked the players. What was it for you that kind of made the final decision?
I mean, I loved Richmond when I went on my official visit. I went on an official visit there way before I went to ETSU, and I never got around to Holy Cross because I committed to Richmond before. But the campus of Richmond is beautiful. I mean, it's next to none. I mean, it's a smaller campus, but it's kind of in the woods, and it's extremely beautiful. And it just feels at home because it's a tight knit community. And then football wise, it's the game. I went to a game for my official. I went and watched them play William Mary, which is one of the oldest rivalries in the South.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's just an electric atmosphere when you're in that game. And like in our stadium, we have all the championships that's been won, conference championships, national championships. Only been one national championship, but you look across. I mean, they've been winning conference championships. The last one they won was in 2014, I think. So it's just a really good program, and I wanted to be a part of it. I mean, it was Coach Huseman and them's first year when I went on my official visit, so I was a part of their first ever class, and so I wanted to be a part of it because I mean, they were building something good. I mean, we struggled early, but I mean, there were some things we had to iron out before we got to the winning part, which I mean, it was worth the grind. I think. I mean, this year was extremely special, and I've built bonds with guys that I could never replace. So, yeah.
Hey, I've been watching your film quite a bit over the last week, and who do you model your game after? Because the one thing that really kind of stuck out to me in your game is, you've got really good straight line speed, but your lateral cutting ability is just really impressive. And I sit there and think to myself of people who I would kind of put in that same school of thought. But is there somebody when you trained that you kind of try to mimic your game after it all or not?
I mean, not a specific guy. I mean, I want to be able to do. I mean, nowadays, I mean, you watch. I want to be kind of like guys. Like I don't run like them because I just not down my style. But I like trying to be like guys like McCaffrey and Kamara in the sense of being able to catch the ball in the backfield. I mean, adding value to myself and special teams and things like that. I mean, when it comes to running, I feel like I run kind of like a Austin Eckler or the guy from the Bears right now. I can't think of his name.
Herbert.
Yeah, no, the rookie at the Bears.
It's I know who he's talking about. It's
because I feel like I'm more of a downhill guy. I feel like I run better when my shoulders are square. I feel like I run better downhill because I can be physical and I can make cuts here and there. So it's hard to pick. I mean, I wouldn't say I have a specific type of guy I model my game after.
That was a touchdown against Foreman where, I mean, that was the one that really impressed me, where you just kept your feet underneath you so well and kept going. It looked like you were down and you just kept your balance. Was that against Fordham or who was that against?
It was against Elon.
Okay. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, now, we got this season wrapped up. You've obviously got some accolades. You've been a great running back. You've been a big time kick returner. Ranked fourth in the FCS among all returners. You graduated now, right?
Yes, sir. I've graduated.
Okay. So now you're in the portal. Tell us what that's like, man. I mean, everybody talks about the portal so much, but we wanted to have you on today because you're a guy that's in it. What's it like being in there? And what's your thoughts about, what's next for you?
I mean, honestly, it's different in high school for sure. I mean, because you already kind of have a name for yourself. And people heard about you through the grapevine, and then like especially like guys in the same region, you read about I read about the same guys from SoCon and the other conferences in our area. So like, I feel like when you get in the portal, I mean, as soon as I put my name in and I tweeted it out, I got followed by some coaches in the region, like coaches I've played against in our conference, and then like a JMU, or then like just local coaches and people I've been in contact with before I committed to Richmond.
Yeah.
I mean, it's straight to the point. I mean, at this point, I'm a fifth. I would be going into my 6th year. So there's no fluff really into it. It's kind of straight to the point. When coaches text you like, "Hey, what are you looking for?" and then you tell them, it's like there's no beating around the bush. Honestly, I mean, I'm honest. Like, I don't know if I'm really interested in your program. It's not what I'm looking for to move me up in a sense for the draft. But now I've actually kind of packed it in for the portal. I began starting my training for pro day yesterday, so I'm moving more in that direction. I mean, I just kind of put my name in there. I have this extra year from COVID. I'm not supposed to have it anyway, so I just like, why not see what's out there? There was no hard feelings from the coaches because we knew I wasn't coming back after the season regardless. So I just put it in to see if I could maybe land an FBS offer or something closer to home, just to say I played on that level, because I do think I can. I just wanted to do it and also try to boost my draft stock. I mean, nothing. I talked to people, but nothing really came around, which is fine. I mean, if it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be. I mean, it's just kind of time for the next chapter, I think, too.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
What's your training schedule look like right now since you've made that transition to get ready for pro days? I mean, it's obviously, since you're not in class, I mean, have you moved away from campus, or are you just still training on campus? Like, what's your day-to-day look like?
I actually just made a decision. I'm not going back to Richmond for the spring. I'm going to stay in Knoxville and train here with Charlie Patron.
Hey, that's who trained me, man. I love Charlie.
Yeah, no, he's a good guy.
Yeah, man. And, he's got the track record, bro. He got really Chad Pennington. He Harrison Smith. He knows what he's doing, man. He'll get you ready.
But right now we're kind of just, I mean, I haven't worked out in the past 2 weeks because I mean we just finished our season and I just wanted to get my body back healthy. But right now, for the next couple of weeks, we're just kind of getting back into it, getting my legs back underneath me, getting the strength that I had back up before we really hit the ground running in the new year. So right now we're just kind of going once a day. I mean, we're doing stuff mostly every day, I would say probably, but it's not as an intense. Some days are more intense than others, so it's not nothing too crazy right now, basically.
Have you been watching much of the 1AA playoff after you got knocked out by Sac
Yes.
State?
Yes, I did. We did. We watched it. I mean, last week or 2 weeks ago, I mean, the quarterfinal games, we felt we should have been playing Incarnate Word, obviously. So we definitely watched it. I mean, I enjoy watching, FCS football. I mean, I think more people should watch it. I mean, the level of talent, especially this time of year, is extremely well. I mean, the guys we play against and with are just as good as some of the guys on the FBS levels. I mean, it's the Incarnate Word game last week. I mean, I stayed up till 3 a.m. watching it. It was 66-63 game, exciting.
It was a track meet. I mean, it was honest to God, it was who had the ball at the end was going to win.
Yes, it was an exciting game. I mean, yeah, but it's been good to watch. I mean, it's always because you never get to watch the teams from out west a lot. So like it's good to finally get to see South Dakota State and Montana State play, and then like Incarnate Word team I've never seen play. It's just nice seeing that. I mean, it's also it's exciting to see who can win and get the upsets. I mean, we used to North Dakota State in it, so it would have been nice if Incarnate Word could have pulled that one off. And I mean, it's cool seeing like William & Mary play Montana State. Wish they had better conditions so they could have performed better, but I mean, it's cool seeing that type of stuff and just like being put on the same level as some of those teams they're always talked about.
Yeah, I'm up in Minnesota and I see a lot of the Missouri Valley games up here with NDSU, UND, SDSU. Yeah. You look at the CAA, I mean, that conference is really spread out. I mean, does the travel to like Maine, New Hampshire, to the north, I mean, how does that come into play when you guys are doing road games against them? I mean, is it a lot harder to prepare for games like that?
For us, not really. I mean, we're kind of like in the middle of everybody besides Maine. Maine and New Hampshire and Stony Brook and Albany we fly to most times. But we don't play everybody in the conference every year.
Yeah.
So like this year we didn't play Rhode Island and Albany. So those games we don't have to worry about traveling there. And then we went to Maine. We flew there to Maine, obviously, but then Stony Brook came to us. So we only like every year they do a good job about traveling. We usually only fly once or twice a year. Most places we go to are drivable 4 hours at most. Delaware is 4 hours from us. Villanova is about 4.5. So it's not bad actually. I mean, a team like Elon, it's difficult for them because everything is north of them.
Yeah.
So it's not bad. I mean, William & Mary's 45 minutes from us. I mean, Townsend's a couple hours. It's not bad. I mean, traveling's never been a big issue. I mean, the only issue we ever had with traveling is after the COVID season, we had to go to Stony Brook. But we had 2 flights that year, so we didn't have it just didn't work out to where we could fly to Stony Brook, and we had to drive to New York, which was a pain. That was a pain.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're fortunate enough to be able to fly. There's a lot of teams who don't fly anywhere.
Oh,
so I mean,
that's rough.
So like our offensive coordinators from VMI, and he was talking about how they never flew. They always drove. You know, they played Mercer and Sanford, and they said they were driving to all those games. I'm like,
wow.
If we do it once every 3 years, I'm fine with it. So.
Yeah, no, that's definitely cool. Hey, now we've seen a bunch of guys come out of this level, in the past few years. Trey Lance. Getting drafted high. Carson Wentz had a lot of success until recently, but you've seen these guys pave the way. Does that give you more confidence as you move to the next step?
Yeah, I mean, it shows that it's possible. I mean, it shows the type of talent that is on this level. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, playing in the NFL is just getting a chance to get an opportunity. If you get on a team, everybody at that point is on the same level. It's just about opportunity. I mean, like Austin Eckler he's a Division II running back in college. And he's one of that
guy's a beast.
He's a top 15 back in the league. I mean, you just got to be a baller, really. It doesn't matter where you come from because, I mean, circumstances are different at a high school, of course. I mean, guys get passed up. I mean, I played against guys who play in the league now. The Troy Reader plays for the Rams, played against him.
Yep.
The safety for the Chargers, Nazir Adderley, I played against him. He's an NFL guy. Like, I mean, we play against NFL guys all the time. It's just it's just not as in abundance as in Alabama. That's why it's just not looked at the same.
Yeah, and just a follow up to that, with the way that college football landscape has changed, with the portal now, I feel like there's more talent going in to the FCS because some of these high school kids are getting overlooked. Some people just they don't want to develop the talent anymore. They want to go pluck somebody that they know what they're getting. Do you feel like that's occurring?
Yes, it is. I mean, nowadays, programs want to win right now, so coaches have to do what they have to do to win. They got to bring guys in that can play right away. I mean, sometimes bringing freshmen, you got to develop. Most cases, you got to develop a freshman, and the coaches need guys that can win right now. So, I mean, we brought in transfers. I mean, our leading receiver and our quarterback this year were both transfers. I mean, it's just different. Some programs aren't content with winning and getting into the playoffs. They want to win national championships, so they got to go to the portal and get guys that can help immediately and help them achieve the things they want to achieve. I mean, it's definitely hurting high school kids, especially on the FBS level, because those schools, guys are going from Power 5 to Group of 5 schools, and the kids who are supposed to be Group of 5 are now falling to FCS. I mean, but it's just making it even more competitive. I mean, there's pros and cons to it, I think.
I do too.
Now, did one player that came from your conference that transferred in to the ACC was Jared Verse, who's probably going to be a first-round draft pick this year. Did you ever have the opportunity of going up against him, and what were your thoughts on him?
Is that the guy from Albany?
Yes.
No, we didn't play him when he was at Albany, but I mean, he's a beast. So I mean, obviously he's doing his thing at Florida State. I never got the chance to play against him, and I never watched much film on him because it's just the way our schedules are lined up. But he definitely was dominating our conference.
Yeah. Hey, do you see yourself more projected? I mean, how do you see yourself projected? I mean, you've done the running back thing. You obviously are a capable receiver. You've done special teams where hell, I've never seen anybody return kicks like that. So where do you see yourself projecting as you look forward?
I mean, realistically, I'm probably a free agent guy. I mean, I didn't have gaudy numbers. I mean, it's just what it is. I mean, I played along the back. That was Savon Smith, who's extremely talented back as well.
Yeah.
And I mean, this year I had a lot more carries this year. I mean, he battled an injury in his hip all year, so that kind of held him back a little bit. But I mean, the years before, I mean, we split carries and we both. I mean, statistically, we were one of the best backs combined. You put us together, we have the same numbers as the guys who were the best back in our conference. I mean, I think I'm a free agent guy. I think, which is fine with me. I just need a chance to get into camp to show my ability that I can run and catch and do other things. So I'm just excited for that, really.
Well, I mean, heck, you look at a lot of punt and kick returners that have made it in the NFL. Like I'm in Minnesota, and Marcus Sherrills, who had a long career with Minnesota. I mean, he was an okay kick and punt returner. He gets to the NFL, he takes it to a whole new freaking level.
Yes.
I mean, heck, the guy went all pro. And if you'd have told me that when I saw him first starting off as a receiver at Minnesota, I would have said, I mean, they threw him back there just on a whim, and look where he is today. I mean, that's why being a free agent, I mean, there's a ton of free agency stories out there. John Randall's probably the one people talk about most up here in Minnesota since, it's old home week up here. But are you thinking then from free agency, is it going to be a pick of what fits best for you moving ahead, or what's the thought process there?
I mean, I guess we'll pick. I mean, if I get a few different opportunities, then yes, what fits well. I mean, but I don't really know much how the process works, but kind of what fits well, kind of what rooms are looking like. I know in most cases I'll have to serve on special teams first to try and get onto a team and then be able to move up in the running back room, which is fine with me. I mean, never been afraid of work. I mean, there's a lot of guys who went from special teams to being all Hall of Fame running backs. I mean, Terrell Davis, I think is his name, running back for the Broncos. I mean, I'm not saying I'm like him or anything, but I mean, it's definitely possible. You just gotta work your way up. I mean, it's how it is in the league. I mean, I'm looking forward to getting the opportunity.
Yeah, man, you got the path set out right in front of you, man. You got good stuff on tape. You got the right guy getting you ready with Charlie. And we expect big things from you. So we'll be cheering for you, man. We appreciate you so much for taking a few minutes spending time with us today. I hope you have a good holiday.
Yes, sir.
And best of luck to you moving forward, man. We'll stay in touch with you, and hopefully as the process goes forward, we can have you back on and check in with you if that's cool, man.
Yes, sir. I appreciate y'all having me.
Hey,
all right,
thank you.
Have a good one.
All right, good luck, Aaron.
Yes, sir.
All right, that was Aaron Dykes, running back from Richmond. Sounds like he's heading towards the league, man. It's pretty cool to get that news on the show. Really, really nice kid, really articulate, intelligent young man. And as I said, he's got some good stuff on tape, and he's got a lot of qualities that NFL teams are looking for these days. He's got speed, he's got strength. He's got the ability to run the football. He can catch the football out of the backfield. He can play special teams, return kicks. I mean, why the hell would you not want to give this kid a shot?
Well, I mean, like we talked about this before off air, is I think you're starting to see more and more of it now where people are looking to kick and punt returners because, heck, starting field position means a lot. And, I mean, you look back at Devin Hester, and who I quite frankly think should go into the Hall of Fame at some point. They went to the Super Bowl with Rex Grossman as their quarterback. But you look at where their starting field position was always really good. All you got to do is get 30 yards and you're kicking a field goal in many cases, putting points on the board. And guys like that who can change the field help their offense out in that starting field position. So you don't have to get 1 or 2 or 3 more first downs to get into scoring position.
Yeah, and, like I mentioned when we were talking to him, he's making the right moves. It sounds like he's committed to working hard. And as he mentioned, training with Charlie Patron, a guy who, got me into college and playing football, which was a heavy task. And then, he's produced some huge NFL players, all from all over the place in different levels. He's trained them up and got them ready for the combine and for the draft. And Charlie knows what he's doing. And, this kid seems like he's got his head on his shoulders. And I really, really hope the best for him. And as we talked about when we were speaking to Aaron, there's a lot of talent at that level. There's more and more kids that are not only going to the NFL, but moving into D1, like he said, threw his name in the portal, see if something happened quick. If not, he was going to go and do the drafting. But, he talked about Incarnate Word. Think about the quarterback, Cam Ward, who, moved on to Washington State from there. And I think we're going to see more and more of that as, the portal becomes used to bring in patchwork players. If you're missing a wide receiver, if you need somebody who's proven to step in and help out a position group, I think we're going to see more and more of that going forward. Do you agree?
I agree, but I think the harder part for coaches is not only bringing a kid in, but bringing the right kid in. And not just on the field. I'm talking about more in the locker room because it just takes 1 or 2 bad kids in the locker room to really mess up. I mean, heck, look at Texas A&M this year. Just because you got guys, you got Jimmys and Joes, doesn't mean you can just roll the ball out there and score points and win. I mean,
no. It's like paid mercenaries.
Yes,
you're not going to win a war with mercenaries because they're not true to the cause. And these kids that are they won $1.5 million coming out of high school and they've never played it down in college football. You know what? I'd pass on them. I'd be like, you know what? I want somebody who wants to come here. I want somebody that wants to work. And if you believe in your coaching abilities and your ability to develop players, you don't have to get every 5-star. You can get a 3-star. You can get a 2-star. You can get a 4-star. Stars, to me, I think is the most overrated thing in the world. And I don't know if you agree with that, but I think I've seen more, especially in my time here in Knoxville, I've seen more 5-stars come through this program down the street and do nothing than I have, anywhere else. And to me, I think about guys that, work their way up and, have the passion and have the drive necessary to have success at a high level. And I've seen way more 3-stars do that than 5-stars across the board. So I don't put a whole lot of stock in that. And I think it's a real big mistake to be giving the money to these kids that have never done anything. And the best example to me is Quinn Ewers. Ohio State brought him in for 4 months. He got over $1 million. And And then he transferred out, and he hasn't really done much at Texas, to be honest. And they had kind of a subpar year based on their expectations. So, I'm not sure that's the best route to go.
Well, I mean, think about how much your body developed by the time you were 18 to the time you were 23. You probably look completely different from that time period. And think of guys like Jared Verse, who we talked about before. I mean, this guy was not even a 2-star. He was a no-star.
Yeah.
He came in as a project at tight end. And then COVID happened. His dad bought him a weight set, and he freaking went off. I mean, went from being during that spring season was all conference, first team all conference, like player of the year defensively, plus was like second team, and then plays that next spring season or fall season and just dominates to the point now he's at Florida State and going to get drafted in the first round. I mean, this is the guy went as a tight end, and now it's going to come out as a D end as a top 15 pick when, heck, Albany was the only thing he had going for him.
Yeah, man, that kid, I'd heard a lot about him from people talking about Florida State, and then I saw him hit the field, and I was just like, whoa.
Yeah.
They may have been underestimating this guy's ability. He's the real deal. And, it's interesting to me. I think we're going to have more and more dudes like that who slip through the cracks. Because like you were saying, these high school kids, some of them aren't even getting as good of a look. And there's just not enough with thousands of kids in the portal, 85 scholarships at each school. There's just not enough spots for all these high school kids to go. And I think we're going to see, as we mentioned with Aaron, more kids going to FCS, more kids going to junior college, just getting onto a team where they can, develop and show what they can do, and then maybe making a move, up the ranks as they go forward. So,
well, I mean, look at Incarnate Word. I mean, honest to God, if you didn't get a chance to watch that Sac State game against Incarnate Word or the NDSU game, I mean, their offense is a lot of fun. And my God, it's like high impact. It is something you got to see. And you look at, Cam Ward went from guy running the Veer in high school to playing quarterback at Incarnate Word, putting up video game stats, to playing at Washington State and playing a bowl game.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt. And a lot of those programs have shown a ton of consistency over the last few years. Incarnate Word, NDSU, Montana State, Sac State, as we just talked about, those programs have been killing it for a while. And as Aaron mentioned, at Richmond, they've been building something down there and getting it done too, even going back to the Dave Clawson days when he was there, getting it done. And they had a couple of years in between that weren't that great, but they're getting back to where they want to be. And, it's just refreshing to talk to a kid like that seems to really have a good head on his shoulders and know where he's at. And I'm hoping for the best for him as he goes to the next step of this. But, we got games coming up, additional bowl games as we look at the bowl schedule. What sticks out to you for people that want to see some games in the next couple of days? Because we've got I'm trying to think of who's playing today. I don't know if there's a game today.
There's nobody. It's all NFL today.
Yeah, there's a game on Monday, Marshall and UConn, which should be interesting. We talked about Jim Moore Jr. Marshall obviously beat Notre Dame earlier in the season. That should be an interesting one. I'm kind of looking at Tuesday, where we got Liberty versus Toledo. I think that is going to be an interesting game. And then Thursday, we got Baylor Air Force. I'm looking forward to watching that. Chase Cunningham, a week from yesterday on Saturday, the 24th, Christmas Eve. Chase Cunningham, the former Knox Catholic Stars, playing from Middle Tennessee against your boys at San Diego State. Which games are you interested to look at?
There's a few in there that I'm really interested on. I think the Birmingham Bowl between Coastal and East Carolina, I think it's going to be very interesting. I know Grayson, the coach, the quarterback at Coastal, Grayson.
He's hitting the portal.
And my guess is he'll probably end up at Liberty if memories,
Grayson McCall is his name.
Yeah, Grayson McCall. I think he'll, seeing what's going to happen there, because that Allers kid at East Carolina can really sling it. I mean, that was a kid. It was a 4 or 5-star kid who stayed home rather than going to one of the power programs. Other games that I'm really intrigued by, I think honestly, the Liberty Bowl between Kansas and Arkansas, I think honestly it would. Seeing what has happened this year in Lawrence, I would love to see them just finally put it away and actually get that win to go 7-6 and really show the direction this program's going. Oklahoma, Florida State, I think is going to be very intriguing in the Cheez-It Bowl. I think this is something where I think Florida State can build on for next year because I think they could be one of those teams that people look to. The Alamo Bowl, Texas, Washington. That's a game where I think some points are going to be put up on the board. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I do. I really do. And to go back to what you were talking about, first off, Grayson McCall is a really good quarterback. I mean, 2,600 yards this year, almost 70% completion, almost 9.2 yards of completion, 24 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He's been in that program at Coastal for several years now. I think he is going to make a good quarterback for somebody based on where he goes. And then just to piggyback off your comment, Florida State to me is a program that is on the rise. I'm really liking what I'm seeing out of them. I know they had a couple of hiccups this year, finished 9-3, but I like the direction that their program is headed right now. And I think that their coach knows what he's doing. I think he's, proved himself at Memphis. And, if they didn't have those 3 games in the middle of the season, Wake Forest, NC State, Clemson, we're talking about a team that could have competed for the championship in the ACC and could be on to bigger things. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Florida State can do and whether they can take that next step as a program.
Jordan Travis really impressed me. Like when he first took over the reins, I sat there and just shook my head. I'm like, I don't know what this kid is. And you could see it was pure confidence. Now this year, man, this kid leads on the field. This kid dictates how that Florida State offense is running. I'm really impressed by him.
Yeah, me also. So we'll see what's up with that. Obviously, we're going to be off. We got the holiday coming up, so we'll probably be off next week. I'll be down in South Carolina, taking a little time to myself. But the college football playoff is just around the corner. Before we leave, I just want to get your thoughts. Obviously, Georgia and Michigan are both favorites in these games. You give any shot to the Buckeyes or the TCU Horned Frogs in those 2 matchups?
I give more of a shot to Ohio State than I do TCU. I think Ohio State, I mean, it's going to come down to the line of scrimmage play. And I think Mayan Williams is going to be the X factor in Ohio State, Georgia. If Mayan Williams can run his game and they start picking up yards at a clip, now you're going to have to isolate those receivers on the outside. And it's too bad that JSN can't play or Travion Henderson. I know they got injuries, but man, that would have been now we get to see the draft stock of where Marvin Harrison can go. I mean, look at last year in the bowl game with JSN. I mean, he put up video game numbers against Utah. Can Harrison do that? Or does Stetson Bennett control the clock? I mean, that's the game I'm looking most forward to. I think Michigan's going to roll TCU, quite frankly.
Yeah, I mean, you got to see it on the field. I think it'll be an interesting matchup. I mean, Max Dugan's proven that he can lead that team to victory. If they get momentum, if he gets, if they get the ball rolling, if they get a couple of first downs, I think he could, put some hurt on that defense. And so I'm not as confident in Michigan as you are, and that's not just because I hate Michigan. It's just because I've seen. I'm serious. I'm not. It's not just my bias, which I have a strong one, but I'm not just saying that because of it. I think that TCU has shown me that A, they're a team that believes in themselves, and B, if they can get a couple of first downs and get their offense in rhythm, I think they're a team that can maybe cause some issues for the Wolverine defense. However, the Wolverine defense has looked tough all year long. They haven't really been exposed by anybody. And I think, they are still the favorite in that game.
I'm intrigued on how they're going to defend Quentin Johnson. That is going to be that is going to be very big in that game. But I mean, you look what they've done this year. It's going to be intriguing watching that game. But Blake Corum not playing is big. I mean, Blake Corum is a generational talent in Michigan.
He is, but Donovan Edwards has proven to me he can step right into that spot and pick up right where Corum left off. So that doesn't worry me as much as you would think based on the season that Corum had, just because number 7 is certainly a capable back. So
yeah,
should be fun, and hopefully next time we talk, Buckeyes will be in the championship game. That's my hope.
Could you imagine the game part 2, Ohio State, Michigan for the national title?
That would be like a dream come true.
I mean, they might as well just, forget playing in LA, move it back to the Midwest. Put it in
put it in Indy.
Put it in Indy, put it in Ford Field. And
let's not go into the state of Michigan. Let's not do that. Maybe Indianapolis, maybe Chicago. I'm cool with that. But I guess since we're already here out at SoFi, they can leave it there too. That's cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, have a good one, buddy. I'll talk to you real soon. Awesome show today. Thanks for everybody that listened. If you missed any part of the interview, I'll try and cut it out before I leave town. And everybody have an awesome holiday and be safe and try and get some rest so we can have a big time 2023. All right.
You bet. We'll talk soon.
All right. Keep your chins up.
All right, man.